Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Content is king. So if you have some content you need created, hit up iopvideo.com. Video production, podcasting, you name it, we can do it. iopvideo.com. We make things look pretty.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world, it's time to listen to The Voice Party. Introduce yourselves.
My name's JD.
God damn, motherfucker, you just...
I'm Gaspar.
I'm Joaquin Xavier.
I mean, and I'm Phil, the guy who makes this happen.
You know what's dope? A lot of podcasts have that gun sound effect, and we just got a motherfucker strapped. Go ahead, pop that shit off again, son.
Roll up.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to The Voice Party. How's everybody doing?
I'm all right now that I'm here.
So us being here basically means the Rona's over. Yeah.
No.
No more Rona. Yeah.
We're at the highest point we've ever been.
And we're here. So
Because we're
fucking
geniuses.
yeah, and then this motherfucker is coughing.
Yeah.
Phil's not wearing a sweater, which means he's gonna be sick soon.
I'll be fine. You can't catch a Rona from getting cold.
That's well. Yeah,
That's not what my mom
you
says.
can still die from regular flu, and that's why they're trying to avoid people from going to the hospital. Because yeah. Anyways, so what's cracking, guys?
It's a lot. Well,
It's the first time being together since the Rona started.
in like, what, 7-8 months?
Yeah, when was our last meeting?
Do you remember what our last
I
episode
think
was?
it's that we recorded live.
Wasn't it the Derek Brock episode?
Yeah, I think it was Derek
So what is that,
Brock.
March?
Holy
That was
shit, February.
February? Really?
We
Yeah,
recorded that in
February.
February.
Oh.
It's almost been a year since we've
That's
all
crazy.
been together in person.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Every single thing, like, just comes to a stop. Everything, you know.
I kind of liked it though. Not
At
the people
first.
dying, but like everyone's available.
Yeah.
I mean, not like, you know. What I'm
Oh, yeah,
saying.
everybody's available.
everything's closed. I don't like, of course, the people died, but it was kind of cool. Like everyone's home.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Definitely
necessarily.
gave people an opportunity to appreciate their family a bit more, especially people who are working multiple jobs and, you know, probably haven't had much time to sit down to a family dinner. Now it's like every meal's a family meal.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Depending on the kind of family you have, possibly yes, unfortunately.
I go on a lot of unnecessary drives sometimes when I wasn't working, just to kind of, you know, just escape. And that's why I like that we did the podcast every week.
Yeah.
It just, it kind of, I guess it was like therapy
Yeah.
for me. I don't know about you guys.
No, it was definitely good to have some kind of social interaction outside of the house. Even though it was still inside of the house.
I mean, it's different when you're like with your friends and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
productive and
Yeah.
you're working and you're meeting people and
Yeah.
you're telling stories, and you know that's kind of the difference when like we were doing it over the phone during the pandemic. Is, you know, it didn't feel as urgent. It didn't feel as
Like we're phoning it in.
yeah, like literally we were
Yeah,
literally
literally.
phoning it in, and it's like, oh, it's Thursday. I guess I'll record. I'll set an hour. Or
Are
something.
you guys still there?
I'm not going to lie. I was super duper pressed trying to guarantee my presence on time.
Yeah.
because I had, you guys know what I've been dealing with at home, and it's kind of like, all right, I've got to make sure all the ducks are in a row, and
Yeah, and that's why we're not only back in the studio. That's why we're a video podcast now.
Yeah.
Because throughout that whole quarantine, IOP Video was sponsoring the podcast, and I got sick and tired of the episodes I was sponsoring sounding like shit. So I dropped some money to upgrade our production value.
As soon as IOP Video took over the sponsoring, it was like. But that, I mean, like, I have shitty signal here too. I would drop off. Yeah. Everyone dropped off. Yeah. Like, I mean, except for Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, you've not won.
So there goes a plus for IOP Video. Last time, like I was saying this earlier, last time we did one of these end of year episodes, I fucking cried. And like this year, there's a lot more to cry about. But on the plus side, like, what's some of the like new and good things that you guys took away from like this fucking 2020? You said no, but
for me, not good things. Not really.
I mean, didn't you pick up a new skill? You didn't fucking, I feel like in a way for some people, 2020 was like a cocoon, where you go and like fucking Iron Man in the cave and just,
I realize how much.
Sound like a Jericho missile? What is this?
Right.
I realize how much I enjoy doing research for the episodes that I kind of, led.
But not just for the podcast, though, in general.
I worked on some things that I feel like. See, the thing is, I was already kind of locked up. Like, I don't go out a whole lot.
Yeah.
And then.
Hey, why everyone's home?
Right. No. Well, about a couple weeks into the pandemic, the shutdown. It was like whatever. There's nothing different. But around week 3, week 4, I realized how much I depended on the times I did go out, and I actually went out a lot. I was playing soccer about 2 times a week. We touched on this in the collector's video where I'll go to like pawn shops or whatever, maybe once every 2 weeks. And so I did do stuff, and now I couldn't do any of that. And I realized how much I needed it for my sanity, and I didn't have it. And in fact, I got so used to it that when things opened back up, I don't do a lot of that stuff anymore. I don't think I picked up new skills. I worked on some of the stuff I was already doing, but I would have done it anyways, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Joaquin?
I'm a nurse that has yet to be registered at this point.
And strapped.
It's like that fucking
fired
scene from
all
Joker.
of the.
Huh?
It's like that scene from Joker when he's dancing with the kids.
He's a nurse. He fucking just blah. Like, woo.
No, like I have definitely picked up some experience in regards to in-home nursing, and man.
Yeah.
Other than that, my time has kind of really not been my own, but
yeah,
I will say this. One thing I was really happy, at least in the beginning of quarantine, when I had a little bit more time, I was able to kind of build up the Frosted Mini Fears Facebook page content. So for those of you listening, there's a handful of short stories that I read for a while. The series is called Frosted Mini Fears Reads Quarantine Edition. And once I've got a little bit more time under my belt, I will go back to providing that content. But check out what we already have.
And are those ones you wrote?
No, those are classics.
Oh,
so
okay.
Mostly stuff written before 1930. So they're not protected by copyright.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker and a few others.
Yeah.
So
Gotta love that public domain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and got a few compliments whenever I went live with those. We didn't even get a whole lot of listeners, but for the people who did stumble across those readings, they seemed to really enjoy it. They were like, "Oh man, when did you do this again?" I'm like, every Monday and every Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever the schedule was. But yeah.
So when did you slowly slip into madness?
H.P. Lovecraftian style. I'm not mad.
I'm just kidding.
And maybe a little angry.
I mean, you did grow a quarantine beard.
Yeah. I'm here looking like Will.i.am.
I like the beard. And
I
plus,
did. Yeah, hell yeah.
The main thing is, barbershops are closed down and they're not cutting beards anyway. And
Clippers,
I just didn't feel like, buying a new set of clippers. It's just like, I'll just grow the wild man beard until I can't anymore. I'm
That's
in
a
the
good
beard
beard.
club now.
Yeah, hell yeah. This is my beard. This is the best I can pull off, dude. It's like almost a pencil-shaped beard, but it's natural.
How long has it been like that? That you
2
haven't
weeks.
shaved?
2 weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
But it doesn't get like a full
Yeah.
beard. It's just like this shit.
Huh.
It looks like, fat kid in high school beard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last time I grew a beard that long, or this long, I mean, was when I was in the hospital. I couldn't shave for 4 or 5 months or something like that. And whew, it's been much longer. I'm actually afraid to cut it off now. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have a trash bag full of hair. I'm like, might as well just keep growing.
It's the perfect time to have a beard. It's fucking cold as shit.
Wintertime, yeah.
Just so everyone knows, we're doing this in an outdoor studio, and it's cold as fuck, and this guy's just wearing a t-shirt.
I mean, I had to rep the voice party.
That's true. That's true.
We all have voice party shirts. I'm the only one who dressed for the occasion.
I have one, but it got Clorox stain. So unfortunately,
we'll get some new ones.
We'll get some new ones.
Yeah.
We'll get some new ones. Phil, what about you? I know you haven't done a whole lot of film, but any new skills?
So
You came out of your cocoon.
well, so the thing with 2020 is I was telling you, like all you guys, is make 2020 a year of change. We all got to change. Might as well roll with it and use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
So when I got sent back to work, when my boss was like, fuck this shit, go back to work, I was sitting in a photo lab with no customers for 8 hours a day. So rather than just get paid to watch YouTube, I was like, well, let me learn some fucking skills. So I downloaded Blender. I've been teaching myself 3D animation. I actually got a bunch of 3D gigs. LuchaMasks.com hired me to do all their promotional videos for their masks. So I made like CGI versions of their masks and did commercials and stuff for them. The tech company I usually do product videos for hired me to do a 3D tech video for them. So I got to actually get paid to use the 3D skills I've been developing.
Did you do those classes on the clock?
I was paid. Shit, get paid, but there ain't no customers coming through the door. So shit.
There
I'm
you
just,
go.
I'm just
There you
sitting there
go.
on YouTube
Fuck
following
yeah.
these
Professional
online classes.
development.
Yeah, and
Hell yeah.
yeah. So I did that, and then I've got a couple 3D gigs. What else have I done over the pandemic? I'd stacked up some cash so I could upgrade our production values. So if you're watching on YouTube, you finally have a reason to watch us on YouTube.
Yes.
If you're listening everywhere else, there ain't nothing.
Check out YouTube.
change for you. But
Check out YouTube.
Yeah, check us out on YouTube if you want to just see us sit around and talk now.
And then you also post what you've learned on the IOP page, right? Like you posted slides of what you've learned.
I would do like screenshots,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "Hey, here's how far I've gotten. Hey, here's some shit I learned."
Yeah.
Because for years, people would always come to me, clients would come to me and ask for 3D, and I'd either have to refer them to somebody, or I'd have to be like, "I don't really do 3D," right? So now that
Contact Pixar.
yeah, so now that that's a skill I have, I was like, well, I should fucking let people know that I can fucking do this now. I'm not fucking great. I've been doing this like 6 months versus the video production, which I've been doing for like 15 years.
Right.
So obviously I'm not like a master at it, but I can at least fake it till I make it now.
Right. And you're not coming straight out of film school. Like you've been doing this shit for 15 years. You know
Yeah,
what
I
people
started
want in 3D.
freelancing when I was in college. And then I've always just done it on the side since then. But yeah, I've essentially been, I mean, even longer if you want to count like the backyard wrestling stuff we did when we were kids. But
Which we need to do an episode on.
we should.
Yes, we should.
Now
and
we can,
will.
now that we have
watch
video.
along and
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is we own all that footage, so
Yeah.
we can use it without having to worry about like copyright takedown notices or anything, which is why when we did the Frosted Mini Fears episode, I was like, oh my God, we can show what we're talking about for once. We actually own the IP. We don't have to worry about getting sued. Yes.
Not yet. Because then we can sue ourselves.
I mean,
for
I
the
guess,
insurance money.
I guess that's
suicide, isn't it?
Suicide. Oh man, yeah. I honestly, I listen to hella more podcasts. Just not that I'm trying to. I mean, I just enjoy the shit out of doing this, and it's like you said, it's journalism.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you were so excited as I'm setting everything up. Every time I set up a new thing, you're like, oh my God,
what is that?
Like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, like I've never seen that thing. Like, what the hell is that? Did you take that out of the dryer? Like, what the fuck?
Oh, the giant softbox for our key light.
Yeah, that was cool. I was like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Well, yeah, because you were just like, well, there's no real light in the garage, and I was like, I gotcha.
I have that thing, but it's I found it in the trash. That one over there.
Yeah, and then I see it in the fucking shop, but like I got certified to run a set during the pandemic.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I brought my certificate to put like our guests at ease. Like, you fine, I know what I'm doing. It's cool. You can't get Rona. I got the certificate. You can't get Rona. There's a certificate.
He's immune. That's why he's not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cold. I may throw one on just to keep my face warm.
Yeah.
So, anybody experiencing pandemic fatigue, and how is it manifesting for you guys?
Pandemic fatigue
or lockdown fatigue or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think just from what I've noticed, the people I'm around, not just me, but like people in my circle, when things shut down the first time, there was a lot more panic, and there was a lot more, well, we got to keep people safe. If it's what we got to do, we got to do. And then I think 8 months later, we've all either known somebody who's gotten it, or we've gotten it, and maybe our opinions of it have changed, and now everything reopened, and that it's shutting down again. People are like, fuck this shit. I'm so over this nonsense. Mm-hmm. So I think people's attitudes have definitely changed. I think people aren't as worried about it as they used to be, and people are just like, I just want to go to the fucking movies and watch Wonder Woman. All right? Can you stop shutting shit down?
On the flip side of that, my grandparents, their church, their denomination specifically, there's a church out in Arkansas, a maximum of 4 people, so not a large congregation, but a member of their church went to the Arkansonian church, I think they're run out of Little Rock, just to visit, right? Like before... like around the early days of shutdown or something like that. I guess it was a road trip. And one of the people coming to visit had the Rona, but because you know how like it's asymptomatic and some people you can carry it and not know, right? Those 4 members all died within a couple of weeks of catching it. Yeah. So, yes, there's plenty of people who caught it who haven't died from it, but there's still some people who caught it who have. And, I mean, if people are like, yeah, we want to just roll the dice or whatever, I mean, I guess it's kind of up to you, but still, let's not be selfish.
Right.
You know?
I don't necessarily, well... I mean, if I got it. Fuck it. I'll deal with it. But I would hate to give it to somebody. Like, for example, I had a family member who passed away in Nevada. And he got it when his son came to visit. So his son had it. His son came to visit, gave it to my uncle, his wife, his daughters, and then they were all sick. So he visited Saturday. Monday, my uncle wasn't feeling well. Tuesday, his wife wasn't feeling well. And then Friday, my uncle died from complications from the Rona. And after he passed, then the rest of them got worse. The son almost died. His breathing was horrible. And luckily he recovered. Everybody recovered. But they're still I think they have complications breathing now. Like they're not all the way. They're still.
That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, like that's a thing that came out in the early few months when they were talking about the symptoms. Is this? Some people have permanent lung damage and permanent liver damage from this. So even if you survive it or whatever, like you could still come out of it not okay for the rest of your life. Not even the flu does that to you.
Yeah.
And,
Like,
I was reading somewhere, I forgot where, but they saw that it causes little tiny blood clots all over your lungs. Mm-hmm. So it's not just like it's not like you're just getting congested. It's like tiny blood clots.
Kind of reminds me of tuberculosis.
Right. Something like that. Yeah. But you know what's crazy? So I didn't work the whole year until June. I started working June. Mm-hmm. And the job site I was working at, one of the guys had COVID. Well, this is before he got sent home, because they were sending people home like quick as soon as they had positive COVID results.
Oh yeah.
So this dude, he was a friend of mine, and he was working there, and he was like, "Oh, dude, I feel like shit." And he was in my face while I was eating a Cliff Bar. This motherfucker, I don't feel very good, dude. I think I'm gonna go home. Oh. And then I'm like, oh, what's wrong? Like, I think I'm getting a fever, bro. And then I'm like, okay, maybe you should go home. Yeah. 2 days later, like, hey, did you see? I forgot his name. His name was like Chaz. Like, no, what happened? He's like, oh, he has COVID. I'm like, he's breathing in my fucking face. Son of a bitch. I hope he dies. No, but you know, he came back a month later, and he told me my sense of smell and taste haven't come back. And he said, if my taste doesn't come back at all, I'm gonna put a bullet in my fucking head because I'm tired of eating.
Good Lord! And
I didn't get it. I got tested. He was breathing in my face. I didn't catch it.
Well, remember, it's only like what? I can't remember the exact percentage, but it's not no infection is 100%.
Right.
So you could have been you were obviously on the lower end of whatever percentage rate. So if it was, I don't know the exact numbers, but we'll say 75%, maybe 76 get it from impersonal contact.
You know what it is?
You were the 25, 24% or whatever.
I ate a lot of chicken soup, bro.
So
the heck?
Eat a lot of chicken soup, but you gotta kill the chicken yourself.
Yeah,
it has a lot of vitamins, dude. For real. I mean, freshly killed chicken and chicken soup with vegetables. That's like that shit'll cure anything, bro.
Hey, you know what I wonder? Considering that there's a couple of viable vaccines that they're working on right now with a high success rate. Since COVID in particular is a form of the common, it's related to the same virus that creates the common cold. Right. I think the common cold is like COVID-6 or something, right? Don't quote me on that. It's COVID something, and a number lower than 19. And they always say there's no cure for the common cold. There's no vaccine for the common cold. But surely, if you can come up with a vaccine for a kind of COVID, then maybe you could come up with I don't know, a vaccine for the common COVID cure that causes the cold. Now, wouldn't that be awesome? Chewable tablets that prevent you from catching colds on a regular basis. That is $1 million idea. Can we copyright this conversation?
Hey,
we do
all of a sudden,
party logo everywhere. So
all of a sudden, like the next session, hey, have you guys heard of Joaquin? He shot it out with the cops, with the fucking FBI, dressed like that. Oh yeah.
See, I've known someone who caught COVID, and it's affecting everybody differently. Because I have a friend who caught COVID, and she said she was super sick for like 3 days, and then she was fine. Since the taste came back, she said it was just like having like the flu. So it's affecting people differently.
That's weird though. The taste.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
They were saying
man.
that early on
Yeah,
about the
they
taste
were.
and smell.
That bullet sounds a little bit more appetizing. I'm not condoning suicide, obviously. But I'm just like, fuck. If I couldn't taste food.
Like, can you imagine, like, biting into a cheeseburger and it tastes no different than biting into a carrot? Like, why even live at
I'd
that
probably
point?
lose weight. I don't like, fuck it. I'm just going to
You'd
eat.
be like, I might as well just eat lettuce.
Yeah. Or, yeah, something. Yeah. But.
So
Go ahead.
when we first started hearing about all of this, right?
You're so submissive. You're like, so. No, go ahead.
You're funny. I have a big family, right? And like, you know, I'm like trying to tell everybody, you know, what's going on, and you're hearing the news, whatever, and everybody's like, okay, oh no, I'm not hanging out with that many people. I'm only hanging out with this person. And then I talk to another family member. I'm like, oh no, yeah, I'm not going out to parties or anything. I'm just hanging out with this person and that person. And so everybody had a network of about, you know, 5 to 10 people where they're like, oh, I'm only with this,
Yeah.
you know. But it's like you add it up, you get to a big number pretty quickly. When the summer came, it was really hot. I live in Antioch. They were partying like crazy. Every weekend, people were getting together. Even my house, we had probably 4 or 5 like big parties with, you know, 50 plus people. One time I was like literally just like running behind people, cleaning doorknobs and everything. Nobody has gotten sick from my immediate family. But after, what was it? After the president got it, I think
That was recent.
Yeah, yeah, that was when.
Oh my God, it's real. No,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
well, a lot of my family stopped. They just stopped partying, but it was crazy the amount. One of my cousins like goes to 3-4 parties every single weekend. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I've seen a lot of parties, man. Like the fucking neighbors.
Yeah.
They like set up lights in a hot tub during the pandemic, and you hear music blasting, and like, I hope these fuckers don't party today because it'll fuck this up.
Yeah.
But it's like, fuck, man. Like, not only are you partying during the pandemic, but you don't invite. Because I haven't been to a party since the pandemic started. Like, I haven't, you know. And we did have a quinceañera during the pandemic for my niece. That was like 25 people, and everybody wore a mask, and we were all separate, you know.
But you were talking to each other from across
I
the
got
room.
fucked up. That was the first time I drank, and well, no, that's like the last time I drank. I haven't been drinking for like a month.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, I
Nice.
cut
I
back.
know if you guys were out here. I was out in Brentwood at the time, but Halloween, you would never know there's a pandemic going on because there's
Really?
there's tons of people trick or treating out there in Brentwood. Like, nobody gave a fuck.
Wow,
Hey,
not my neighborhood.
people are wearing masks, but they're like Batman masks, so they don't really do
Right.
anything. It's like the opposite of what you want.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Yeah,
Wow.
my neighborhood was quiet.
I was
Here,
kind of
too.
hoping that Mortal Kombat costumes and the ninjas in particular would go up in sales this year. 'Cause,
Right.
You know, that mask that cover
Bane.
their freaking faces.
Bane, fucking
Bane.
man.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
And you got your Commissioner Gordon costume today.
You know, we were talking about parties. I think one of the things that's kind of fueling people becoming jaded and getting just kind of over this pandemic is, did you guys see the thing with Gavin Newsom recently?
Which one?
So
He
there
was at a
some
party, right?
What's that?
He was at a party.
Yeah, he was at a party with hella people, like 50
God.
people, everybody shoulder to shoulder, nobody wearing masks.
Oh, my God.
And everybody's like, this motherfucker.
Yep.
He's going to tell us we can't go to work and earn a living, but he's going to sit out here and fucking get drunk and
Yeah.
party. Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
Just because he was irresponsible doesn't mean that the advice is bad, though.
Yeah, but
It is
agree.
hypocritical, but that
is
does not
hypocritical.
mean the advice is bad.
It's one thing for a parent to be like, do as I say, not as I do. It's another for an elected official. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I don't think a parent should be like, do as I say, not as I do. Simply because, I mean, parent how you want to, but children absorb what they see.
But we're not
So-
children.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you know, you tell your kids, do as I say, not as I do. And for the most part, during their actual childhood, they'll obey you.
Yeah.
But when they get to be 20, all the things they saw you do, they're going to start doing themselves subconsciously, you know? You're essentially, the kids are, you're reaping what you sow at that point. So only exhibit the habits that you want your kids to take on in front of them.
I want to mention something because for the most part, of course, COVID's like the biggest thing that happened this year. But there's a lot of other stuff I'm sure that we all experienced throughout the year. I mean, as far as, you know, like COVID, fuck, dude, the podcast for me, it's been like one of the most, I don't want to say important, but like, there's been a lot of progress.
Yeah.
Even though we're doing over the phone.
You're over here just like, oh, I haven't been to a party since the pandemic. Motherfucker, you had a party every week. You had a voice party every week.
That's true.
We're at a party.
That's why I don't party.
Audio confetti all over the place.
Exactly. No, yeah. But I'm just saying, like we've had a lot of milestones with the podcast so far since we started.
Huge
milestones. Yeah, we.
And I would honestly say that a huge part of that, I think, has to do with the distance style that we adopted, because we got a couple of folks from other states and probably live a little further, like Hugo, for example. Does he still live?
He's in Richmond.
Oh, he's in Richmond, so he could have come through.
Yeah.
But we've had one or two people who probably wouldn't have had the time or would live too far away to slide through here, and
Rick
we
Ross.
got him.
Rick Ross. Rick Ross.
I wasn't going to drop the... Okay, I guess
I
that
think this will
episode
come out
up
after.
Yeah, this episode's going to drop in December. It's going to come out after all this.
This is going to
All right.
drop like 3 episodes after or something.
Oh, okay, for
Yeah,
sure.
so
Yeah,
it's
no.
fine. We can talk about all the shit we've already recorded.
Right now, the
yeah.
Rick Ross
Rick
episode.
Ross.
And I already
You know?
dropped that we interviewed him on the
Oh,
podcast.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
Ooh,
I just
pulled
didn't
the
say
gas
which
bar.
Rick Ross.
Yeah,
I'm just
but
kidding.
I was going to say, going back to what I was saying about making this a year of change, we were kind of forced to adapt, and I think we got some really good content out of it. The audio quality was shit, but we had some great quality content though. Like I love the episode we did with JD Charisma.
Oh hell yeah,
We were
that
talking
was
about
fun.
acting and representation in Hollywood. I've been trying to get him on the show for a while, but he lives in San Jose, and it's just scheduling wise getting him out here. It was so having over the phone like that in the pandemic, it was the perfect opportunity for that. And then same thing you said with Rick Ross, and a lot of the people we've had
Hugo.
were people who we probably couldn't have got into the studio.
Minister Wanda Johnson.
Minister
she
Wanda
lives-
Johnson
she
was
lives
a huge
pretty-
bar
But we
away
can
from
get
here.
him on the phone for an hour and talk about some real shit. And
Or 2 hours. in some
2 hours
cases.
sometimes.
Yep.
With
We
me-
learned about that
Dave.
2 hour limit real quick.
Yeah. So right before I go, I gotta say that real quick. Like the last, those last
5,
questions.
4, 3, 2, click.
Yeah. You know what I loved that came out during the pandemic for the podcast? Those Phil intros. Let's hear it.
I mean, Joaquin did it. You mean
I know, but I know.
Why would just grab the mic and be like, "We're gonna the voice party!"
See,
And just
Phil's
fucking
rock and
Mick
roll,
Jagger
man. I
that
get all
shit.
sensual with it.
He's like, what's that guy? Henry Rollins? Fucking. Oh my god.
I'm over here like Andrew WK, just singing one song after another about parties.
What's funny about that is I picture you in your desk in your underwear with like Taco Bell and welcome to the voice party, everybody.
I mean, I never wore pants when we were doing those episodes. When I get home, that's the first thing I take off. It's pants
Dude.
and shoes.
Have you guys noticed how like jeans are hella uncomfortable now that I've worn sweats and shorts for so long?
I started wearing joggers about a year or two ago, and
How's your sperm count? It's growing, right?
yeah.
Fucking A.
More tissue. No, the first time I wore pants, I was like, wow, no wonder people complain about these.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
It's great.
I actually wore pants today for the first time.
We kind of had
In a
to.
while.
We're having company over.
No, well, I was gonna wear joggers, but then I was like, it's gonna be cold, so let me just put these on.
That's what I've loved about COVID. Like certain things close earlier than they used to. Like what was it? Like Food Max used to be open 24 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you realize, they don't need to be open that late. But I loved going to like Food Max just to browse back in the days when I was like depressed and bored. It's like, let's see what's here. Yeah. So Yeah, I my sleep schedule's improved. I kind of forced myself to go to sleep early.
Really?
'Cause I'm not gonna lie, dude. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but when the shutdown first started, for a while I like drank a lot.
Boredom will do it.
Boredom and yeah.
I think it's
the
a little
world
bit,
ending.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more than boredom because even I will.
Who needs condoms? You know, like
I will ask for alcohol more than I would before.
you drove from your house to hang out with Johan to drink. Like I was like, Gaspar needs help.
No, and usually it'd be like, oh, do you want some drink? I'm like, okay, and then my friends have to insist, but this time it's like, do you want some? Yeah, I do. Yeah, and
Can I have some, please?
Right.
You're like that kid from Oliver Twist. More, please.
Yeah.
We are living in a time that is historic.
Yeah.
I mean, technically you say that about any time, but it's been a really long time since the entire world had to brace themselves for a pandemic. So, I mean, the whole world shut down. Like, this is history right here that we're discussing.
I know. When I went to the grocery store, there's older cashier, and even Rick Ross. When we asked him, they're like, "I don't think anyone living has seen this.
Yeah.
No one that's alive has ever seen anything like this, unless there's immortals out there, but you know, running the government. But
the closest it's come to is my grandfather remembers his mother being called Doc. Because during the Spanish flu epidemic, she was the only one in the family that didn't get sick. And she took care of everybody. And somehow she managed.
What a curse. What a curse.
So essentially, she survived it long enough to have like my grandfather and my aunt. So there you go.
A concern of mine is that people are not going to want to talk about this once we're in like 2021, 2022.
Like they're done with it.
Yeah, and I suspect that might have happened with 1918.
That's why we're here again.
Well, yeah, I remember I was like, why didn't I know anything about this? Why doesn't anybody know anything about this? And I wonder if it's because it was such a terrible experience that nobody wanted to talk about it. Like, why aren't there any movies about it in the early 20s about this?
I feel that way. I don't know if you guys watch like procedurals or like CSI or NYPD Blue, any of those shit. But like, if you watch, everybody's wearing masks now in the shows and whatnot because they're trying to make it contemporary. And I'm just like, ain't nobody gonna want to fucking watch this next year.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody want to be reminded of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, just pretend like it's not happening. That's what everybody else is gonna do once this is over.
I think it's gonna be looked at like 9/11.
Well, that's a good example where, we don't really, a lot of things we just don't talk about. No. We kind of keep it surface level.
I think that's because so much shit happens. Like, ever since the election, that's another fucking crazy thing that's happened. Like, you haven't heard about COVID as much, but it's still there.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, the news source I listened to, it stopped talking about COVID during the election. And then once the election was done, they got back to COVID, but it's like, oh, now the numbers are worse than they were before the election.
It's like we looked away for 5 minutes, doggone it, and no.
Yeah.
Just like when the riots were happening. That's another big thing that happened this year.
I remember, I think I might have mentioned this a while back. I was reading just like a list. Somebody just compiled a list of all the shit that went down in 2020. Yeah. And it's like riots, police brutality, murder hornets, pandemics. Just hornets. One thing after another. And you're like, holy shit, I forgot about the murder hornets.
Well, I think some of the things...
Chadwick Boseman died. That was a big one.
We lost a lot of people, man. Chadwick Boseman, Alex Trebek. The original James Bond.
Yeah.
Man. Oh, here's one thing I meant
the Friends reunions canceled. Fucking
Betty White just sitting there laughing. You notice that? Ain't shit coming for Betty White.
That's right. Betty White is immortal. But the actor that played Scott Summers in the 90s X-Men cartoon series died in September.
Dang.
They had. I only know this because the cast had a big YouTube reunion thing, like Zoom, and
He died this year?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
He died this year. Yeah, 2020, man. Death of my childhood. Hashtag death of childhood.
Fucking Bernie Sanders was just like, fuck it.
Ain't shit saving this anymore. Like, fuck it.
Because you notice, like, other countries get to like argue over which candidate is better.
Yeah, right.
We're stuck here arguing over which one's worse. Like, well, at least he's not so and so. He's bad, but he's not that bad. He may fall asleep in the middle of giving a speech, but
At least he's not an total asshole like the other guy.
I mean, I'll say this. I thought we talked about this. We were talking about the election results as they were coming in. I thought Trump was going to win.
Me too.
He still might.
thought
He's
so
trying to
too.
do those. He's trying to do those recounts.
Yeah.
You know, he keeps sending me emails asking for donations to help with the recounts. So,
How do you get your fucking email? That's what I want to know.
look, I really wanted a Space Force hat. That was the only way to get one, was to join the mailing list. Okay.
You signed up the same day you signed up for your Spirit Halloween email fucking list.
You
No,
know?
man.
See, I feel like if Trump would have won, he'd just been like, well, no more Rona. Everybody back to normal.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
I worry that the opposite might be true. That once Biden is in, a lot of the media will stop focusing on a lot of these bad things that they focused on with Trump.
You know,
See-
you know what I'm scared of? I was actually afraid that Donald Trump would turn around and go, well, we have to put the election aside because the pandemic is still crazy and martial law, everyone.
Well, didn't he
Trump
request?
is a badass motherfucker. He don't give a fuck. I wouldn't be surprised if fucking January 1st, Trump's like, you know what? I'm just going to declare martial law and I'm just going to stay president. Like, I'm just going to enact my executive powers and just stay president. We'll just ride this shit out.
Yeah. Well, didn't he say he wanted to delay the election?
Yeah, because
he wanted people to stop counting.
Well, after that, now
because he had an issue with like the absentee ballots because you know there's no way to check IDs. You know, there's no way to check if stuff is fraudulent or whatnot. You know, so
Which was completely nonsense because absentee voting is what the military does. It's every single election.
Right.
yeah.
The ones that are overseas and the fucking
So,
and a lot of old people do it like every year.
My thinking is I think it in his mind, or at least in the mind of his cabinet Republican strategists, they were like, all right, so demographics show most of the lefties would prefer to vote, you know, absentee style because they have a little bit more buy-in with the COVID danger. And then a lot of the right-wing guys are, you know, storming the buildings of their local governments demanding to be allowed to do whatever the Sam Hill they want. So, you know, I honestly think he figured if he could somehow shut down the post office for a decent amount of time that he would definitely clinch the win. You know, because all the freaking smart people were going to stay home. But, you know.
Look at us now.
Look at us now.
Backfired. Oh my god.
I mean, I'll say this. I think it's pretty evident that we are going to sue the shit out of China once this is all done.
Yes.
China's going to be on the hook for all this R&D for a vaccine. We are
At least give us a discount on our debt.
We are going to bankrupt that fucking country. You ain't going to see made in China on shit no more.
It's going to say made in
Taiwan.
Well, see, here's the thing. I feel like Biden's
Saudi
kind of a
Arabia.
bitch, so who knows what he's going to do. If Trump was in office, he would bankrupt that company, he would purchase the IP, liquidate the assets, and rename the some bitch America 2.
I don't think so.
I mean,
We're underestimating China.
supposedly Mexico
Yeah.
was going to
I
pay
think
for the
that-
wall, and then there's been no Mexican jack. So,
Yeah.
So you know,
I think if they were, I think China would probably declare war.
no, we cannot go to war. Any single war with two powers will end the world.
specifically, any war with freaking China. Do you know how many
China,
people they
Pakistan,
have over
India, U.S., Russia, they're all nuclear. They all have nuclear
there? That's
weapons.
very true,
Yeah.
but in particular,
But
you know how
the
they,
colors would be so
Okay.
pretty.
No.
You know why there's
The
least
sunsets.
likely going to be nuclear holocaust is because the unspoken rule here is that everyone has their hand hovering over the red button. No one wants to be the first to push it because that's mutually assured destruction.
Right.
So what I'm more concerned about is going up against China because they have billions and billions that they can mobilize within an instant.
Yeah.
Like, a lot faster, I think, than we could because of their nature of their culture and the way their government is set up. They can just be like, all right, we're just going to turn the whole province into a barracks, and they'll be like, whatever we can do for the Republic of China, give me a rifle. We don't want war with them.
Can I say this? This is totally off topic.
Go ahead.
But I want to give him a blowhorn and have him hold the end is near sign and do these rants on the streets. This would be great. Like, yeah, dude, fucking tell him. Like, and then someone disagrees with you, pull out the strap, motherfucker.
You're like, look, if you don't do that,
Yeah, I think the estimates are that they're going to be the number one economy in like the next 5-10 years. And then
China,
yeah. What they have that other,
when the check clearers from the U.S. is dead.
well, what they have, is they just have a lot of people, and so
Yeah.
industries can thrive over there because of the amount of workers. Yeah.
the Chinese, in a sense, have already kind of won a war against
Yeah.
the U.S., an economic one. We've already been beaten.
It shouldn't be a war though. Like, why does it have to be
Trade
a war?
war. Trade war.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't have to be though.
I
It doesn't
agree
have
with
to
you.
be, but
Yeah.
it's two
But that's not the
superpowers, so
reality we're living
it's not
in.
gonna
Yeah.
be.
They
yeah.
beat the crap out of us. We owe them a ton of money.
Yeah.
I hear they've been buying up various properties out here in the United States for
Yeah.
some sort of,
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So they feed a bunch of students coming into the United States, into the college system, and they immigrate, and I'm not suggesting there's some sort of wholesale spy situation going on, but I kind of am. Yeah, we're kind of China's bitch right now.
What's their relationship with Russia? Because I'll tell you this guy that I used to work with predicted if there's another world war, it would be like a shitload of countries against Russia. So U.S., Europe, Russia against China.
I
There's
don't
a guy
think-
who was in the military. He said I know what the fuck I'm talking about. He was missing teeth, but still, it was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking
What
about.
I've heard is that go ahead, sorry.
I'm under the impression that the Russians and the Chinese are not as interlinked as they were during the Cold War because things have changed.
Yeah.
Regimes have changed. Like, Russia's no longer the quote-unquote communist threat they once were. They're just plain
longer the
old
USSR.
totalitarianists with the veneer of democracy, and the same thing with China, but they're independent of each other.
But
for the most part.
Putin's a pure soul.
What do you mean by like a nice guy? Like rescues cats.
This episode sponsored by Russia.
There's an I think it's Vice. Vice did an episode on how Russia is focusing on not weapons, but information hacking. What they're doing is hacking, and that's how they kind of have been attacking the U.S., if you will. Whereas I think the U.S. has been focusing a lot on building its weapons and its military, and I think that kind of tells you what the future will be like, right? Where if you want to take down a civilization, you'll do it through information, through hacking its
There's gonna be just
infrastructure.
some American general trying to push the button. Why isn't nothing happening? Why is the button not working?
Yeah.
Some fucking tech support guys giggling because they fucking hacked the guidance system.
Yeah. Which from what I hear, none of those countries can compete with the U.S. when it comes to military power.
Damn right, motherfucker.
That's
USA.
no.
We'll
We're
blow up
behind on
ourselves,
education.
bitch.
We're behind on education, health. Like
I mean, if nothing else, and this is going out to the establishment, the folks in charge over there at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, for all
You
those
would
listening
want
from there.
a better education system, at least to create a wave of Tony Starks. You need engineers. You need scientists to
Elon
build
Musk.
this awesome stuff for you that goes boom. So, I mean, hopefully, with a great education initiative, we get some doctors and lawyers and all that other wonderful stuff. But incentive specifically to Washington, D.C., because good Lord, y'all love to pump all the money in the direction into the guns.
All right. Let me say this. If all these other countries have such a better education system than us, and they're so much smarter, how come ain't nobody sneaking across their borders? That's right. America's number one. You can have your education. I'll take my Hollywood and my Pringles potato chips. Thank you very much.
So I think
They come here for fucking Pringles.
To swim to Sweden from Mexico.
So I think half of Silicon Valley, where
I think there's different ideologies here. That's what I'm
so
getting.
Silicon Valley, where there a lot of money is concentrated, I
Yeah.
think half of it is immigrants.
Right.
Yeah. So they're earning that. You know, people who have a better education abroad are coming, and
A lot of dudes from like India, Sweden.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with immigration.
No. But like we need to
nobody was
learn.
fucking born here.
Right.
This fucking country was founded. Well, it was founded on finders keepers, but we later rebranded that as immigration.
It was
Right.
it was more like takers
Finders
keepers.
keepers?
Yeah, it wasn't lost.
You know, the natives, bless their hearts, brought tomahawks and arrows to a gunfight. They didn't even know they had to fight it.
USA, USA, USA.
Like I know people like Red Cloud. They had like this is what I read about Red Cloud because he actually beat the U.S. At one point in one of the wars. That's not really talked about, but
True.
He like one of the biggest armies. And at one point, like Chief Joseph and these other like crazy horse, I think that's who the other big ones were. They wanted to unite with him, but at this point he was just like, I don't want to keep having my people die for land. It's not worth fighting for. And you know, I'm just gonna go to our reservation, which generations later got fucked over. Like, we're gonna minimize your reservation to this instead of this because we need to build Arkansas and whatever the fuck states.
I think it says a lot that the Navajo Nation, who, let's be honest, they've been mistreated. They haven't really been treated well by any president in history. Yeah. And they have, like, I think some of the lowest voting historically participation in the nation came out and voted this time around. Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah, that's
they
true.
Were just like
big fucking yeah.
And they had a COVID spike because of it.
Right.
Man,
what got me last time around was the people out here in California like protesting and rioting and blocking off freeways, and I'm like, we're a fucking blue state. Your vote doesn't matter. Like, the fuck are you doing? It wouldn't have made a difference.
About that, so my ex was campaigning. She was running for
Trump?
school board. For school board, and you know, she asked me to help, whatever, and I went out canvassing with her one day. And most people, they don't want to hear it, right? They don't want to hear it. Don't knock on the door, whatever. And I was thinking of like how much the dialogue has been. We need a lot of grassroots movement. We need, you know, get rid of the establishment. But it's like, well, here we have people that are doing it, and most people, they don't want to know. And you know, like you said, for the most part, our vote doesn't really count when it comes to the presidential race. But with local races, they absolutely do count.
Right. And what I, as you know, I work with kids, you know, students, and I've done a lot this year. I mean, I always work with government kids every year because, you know, I have seniors every year. But this year's been particularly fascinating for my students because, you know, normally they learn about how elections work, but unless it's an election year, they don't get to see it. So now it's like they get to see it. It's alive. And some of my students were actually eligible to vote because they were like right on the cusp a month or so before elections. So they were super excited. And as we're sort of like looking at elections of years past, one thing and in this year as well, one thing I noticed is that third party or fourth party representation was actually more viable going like 100 years and more back, and then every year as you go down the line, that third and fourth party, their numbers drop a little bit more. I think the last significant third party was like Ross Perot or Bob Dole. I guess it was Bob Dole.
Bob Dole.
Yeah,
what was
Bob
that
Dole.
like before?
That was around Clinton's era
Reagan's,
when
though?
he ran.
Oh
right?
yeah, it was.
And I really think what we need is a viable, like other countries have viable third and fourth parties that have representation in their legislatures and even in their top seat in their executive branch, right? And it would be a healthy thing, because right now I kind of feel like, yeah, I've voted blue, but at the end of the day, the Democrats get to say that they're the champion for the working class and they're going to improve education, they're going to make things better for the workers this way or another, but they kind of don't have to, because who's the other side of the competition? You can easily get a Democrat in office who isn't going to do any of those things that their party supposedly ideologically aligns with. But there's this sort of
which was what they say about Biden.
Right. Yeah. And there's this sort of, and I don't get it twisted. I haven't forgotten that Biden voted against having students of color being bussed in the 70s during the integration attempts. I haven't forgotten that at all. So the problem is when you have just two selections, it's kind of like, all right, you have the guys over there who are honestly saying, we believe in small government, we'd rather do nothing for you, and then we have the guys who are like, yeah, but we're saying that we're gonna do stuff for you. I mean, honestly, who are you gonna pick? But if we had like a strong third and fourth party, like with real competition and votes that could potentially move elsewhere, I think we would get a lot of stuff. I think that would put pressure on all of the parties to actually live up to their word.
Because it's like, who we want, Samsung or Apple? That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
With
Pretty
the
much.
political parties. And
Dude, it's like that all over the place.
Yeah.
Your cable, where are you gonna go? They can treat you like shit because where are you gonna go?
Right.
Yeah, your phone. What else?
Yeah, it's the same thing with PG&E right now, because I've made no bones about it that I don't really support the Democratic Party because they're just as corrupt as the Republicans, except they'll lie to your face about it, and they'll hail themselves as the champion of the people, and then enact policies that hurt the working class people. Good example of that is fucking Gavin Newsom recently. You know, California has just an epidemic of homelessness and poverty,
it's getting worse,
and crime, and
I got my camping gear just in case.
Yes, and like people are leaving California in droves because of how horribly run the state is, and then the leadership's response to that is, "We hear you. We're going to force everyone to buy an electric car." And you're like, PG&E can't even keep people's powers on now. You expect them to then...
And then the fires have gotten worse.
Yeah, and then you expect PG&E to then be able to support 2.5 million people charging their cars every day.
Right. Exactly.
Like, this sounds more like a ploy to keep Tesla in the state, because Elon Musk has already talked about leaving because of how horribly run the state is. So... shit like that. And then like the last election when they were conspiring against Bernie Sanders because they wanted Hillary to be the nominee, even though the people wanted Bernie Sanders.
Right.
And then the party that's supposed to be the champion of the people is
Nobody wanted
the will of
Biden.
the people.
Nobody wanted Biden like this election. Like during the debates for the Democrats, like Biden was like the last
one.
guy they wanted. If
I mean,
anything, it would have been that other chick. Not even Kamala. What was the other one? Tulsi.
I know you're. I it's on the
Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard? Was that her name?
No.
No. That's somebody else. I forgot her name.
But I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
The one that smiles a lot?
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
That was the other.
Oh yeah, Yang, my man, Yang.
Ooh, we would have had $1,000 each right now.
But you know, I it's a shame that Bernie stepped aside, but I think To borrow a phrase from a friend of mine, Bernie Sanders decided it was better to have friends than successfully win the election.
Yeah.
I was listening to Noam Chomsky.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Would you have supported Bernie?
Yeah, I mean that was with the last election.
I'm just curious.
I would have voted for Bernie if he was the nominee last time around. And then when they undercut him, I was like, I can't vote for Hillary. Not after this shit the DNC pulled.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. Anything is better than Hillary. At least with Trump, we'll have 4 years of like hilarity. It'll be like a golden age of stand-up comedy.
Entertainment. Sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, I was listening to Noam Chomsky talk about. He was saying that we shouldn't look at Bernie's campaign as a failure. Because even though, he didn't get the nomination, he managed to move the dialogue in the direction that he moved it.
Right.
There's things that he brought up that nobody would have ever talked about.
He put them on their toes for sure.
Yes,
Yeah. And so there's things that people are talking about now because of him.
So we need I know there are other parties active in the U.S. that aren't Democrat or Republican, right? But clearly they don't have the buzz. They don't have the urgency.
Right. They just want to win the vote.
We just declared the Voice Party a party. Fuck it. Like,
Hey, fun fact.
One of us for president.
No.
Okay, 2028. We need time to build.
Fun fact. I was curious, like, how this whole, like, who, I guess, like, back then when the first president, like, for example, George Washington, he was an independent because, I think I mentioned this when we were talking on the chat, he thought political parties would divide the nation.
Imagine that!
Oh, you silly goose.
Even in his day, you had
Just smile for your dollar picture. Like, shut up.
And even in his day, you had
The Federalists, which were...
it was
what?
the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, the grandparents of the Republicans and the Democrats.
Andrew Jackson is like the first Democrat according to the way they was. I mean, because he's the one that gave them the ass, because they used to call him Jackass.
Yeah.
But
Andrew Jackson. That before Trump, that was the most entertaining president we had.
But they didn't have footage of him. We didn't have into what he said. It's been entertaining. Bush. We remember some of the shit Bush said that we
Bush
thought,
did quite a
wow,
bit.
I haven't heard. This is the funniest thing about Bush. I don't know if you guys remember this.
When he choked on the pretzel?
No.
When he kept getting, like,
There's a long list.
when he was just like, you fool me once, shame on. Is it shame on? Is it shame
Yeah.
on? Once you get fooled, you can't get fooled again. I still use that to this day.
No, this is a funny one. I don't know if you guys, I think you can watch it on, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. It's after, like, the Pope gave a speech and, he was going to come and speak after the Pope. So the Pope gives his speech and then Bush comes up to him. He shakes his hand on the podium. He says, "Awesome speech, Your Holiness."
Hey, I'm just going to say this.
High-five him?
I'm just going to say this.
Fist bump.
I will say this much
Awesome
about George
speech, Your
Bush.
Holiness.
George Bush is an example of the kind
George
of...
W. Bush.
George
Yeah,
W. Bush.
you got to specify because there's
right.
two.
You're right.
You had
You're
the
right.
good one and the boring one.
Okay, so
He was
George
fucking evil,
W.
though.
Bush is an example of the kind of Republican that I respect, in that I may have disagreed with him, but I had this sense that his heart was in the right place. Manipulated by Dick Cheney as he was,
Evil Dick Cheney.
he
Motherfucker shot his friend in the face and showed no remorse. Just like,
His friend put out an apology, a public apology.
I got in the way. I should have been more aware of my surroundings.
I should have seen that bullet coming.
Talk about
Probably.
a toxic friendship right there. But no, seriously, like, Bush really believed, like, all right, we're going to give freedom to the Middle East and we're just going to have to
I
give
don't
it
know
in
about that
blood.
one.
Hold on.
I actually think he believed that.
There's
though.
no way.
Going back to Dick Cheney's friend, he apologized because he got in the way of the bullet going to the bird that he was hunting. They're like,
I'm sorry you missed your shot because of my face.
get your face out of the way, son.
But Donald is a guy that doesn't seem to have much heart for anything other than himself.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, as someone who's just gotten so like jaded in his old age and just so sick of just corruption and being lied to over and over again by elected officials, I kind of admire Donald Trump, who's just fucking throwing crotch chops around and telling people to suck it. You know, we got that a little bit with George W. when he would just get fed up and be like, look, I'm the decider, okay? I decide what we gonna do.
Yeah.
Trump was out here just like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. I'm going to do what I want. You don't like it, there's the dog.
Trump also had his lies like any other politician. I've done more for African Americans than Abe Lincoln. Yes, I have. And it's been so wonderful. And, oh my gosh, you can't believe what the fuck you're saying.
There is a photograph of Trump with a black person, so we know he can't be racist.
Okay?
Good point, Phil.
Lil Wayne.
I didn't think about
Lil
that.
Wayne. Come on.
Dude, that was embarrassing, the endorsements that were happening
that
right
was
before.
shameless.
50 Cent came out and said, wait, Biden's gonna raise taxes and people who make over $400,000? Forget this, I'm voting for Trump. And I'm like, 50, you got billions of dollars in the fuck you. Like,
Yeah, there's a lot of guys, like, I know Ice Cube got flack for, but his was different.
his was different. His was not a verbal support of any one party. He just said, hey, I have this plan. I haven't read the plan. I don't know what's in it. But he was like, I have a plan to help out African Americans. He went to the Democrats first, and they said, we'll
wait till
talk
the
to
election.
you after the election is over.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I actually no. I will say this much. The Democrats kind of have this thing with African Americans that's unspoken, where it's sort of like, come on, really, where are you going to go? So if you notice, they don't really give promises, campaign promises to us in the way that they do with other folks.
Right.
Like they'll have a meeting with Latin Americans and Dreamers and say, all right, what do you guys want? They don't do that with black folks. They're like, all right, whatever. We got y'all in the pocket. Remember the Civil Rights Act or whatever? We got y'all in the pocket. So they feel like they can just ignore us because, I mean, we know the Republicans, they go give y'all shit anyway. And so, but oddly enough.
But they'll be honest about it.
Right, they'll be honest.
Yeah,
Like, you're not gonna get it.
Republicans are honest. Like, look, we don't really give a fuck.
Look, we don't like you.
What
Let's
you
just-
gonna do? That's what I thought.
We don't like you, first of all. Let's just.
And then, like...
Is there any way you can go back to Africa?
But did you guys ever watch the show Freaks and Geeks? It was one of the first shows that who's the fucking Judd Apatow? It was one of the first shows Judd Apatow did.
Jason Segel.
It takes place.
Rogen.
The show takes place, I want to say, in like this 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
It might have been the early 80s. No, I think it's the early
80s.
80s because there's an episode where Ronald Reagan is campaigning. And he's going to come speak at one of the kids' schools.
Okay.
And the daughter is going to ask him all these questions about like the fucking drug deal with Colombia and all this shit.
Yeah.
You know, and she makes a comment to her dad about being a Democrat. And her dad, just while they're eating dinner, is just like, everybody's a Democrat till they get some money.
Yeah.
So the Republicans know who their target demographic is. They're like, look, if you worried about what minimum wage is, you ain't voting for us. We already know that. If you work a minimum wage job, we don't even fucking know who you are.
That's not entirely true. The red states, a lot of them, they're not making that much money with their careers. The Republican tactics with them is the what they call the moral majority, which kind of started springing up in the like early 80s, right? Where they're like hugging on pastors and going, that's right, you know, we're not going to pass any legislation that allows gays to get married, and we're going to look at you funny if you're a woman that's going into the workplace, because really you should be in the home. It became more of a
That's what's creepy about Republicans.
Cultural values thing, and that's why they're able to get the red states in the way that they do, because a lot of the red states they're very religious. They're very like behind the times with race and gender issues and things like that, and they don't see a problem with it, and they're like, all right, like the Bible Belt, we're always gonna vote red. It doesn't matter like how many times you can hear the recording of Donald Trump saying grab him by the pussy, you're still gonna be like, Jesus, put him in the White House. Oh, Lord.
We wouldn't care so much what's going on in those places.
What a drastic change from the energy.
Yeah.
You just wearing like your futuristic leather jacket. Would it matter? Like after the world's ending.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just love that. I love that.
I'll try yelling to
know.
Yeah, we wouldn't care. Like, you know, how backward. I don't want to talk shit. Anyways.
No, talk shit. Fuck it,
Have
dude.
you not been hearing the rest of us?
No, yeah.
It's totally fine to talk
I grew up in Arkansas.
We put the disclaimer
I can
at the
bash
beginning
a
of the
red
episode.
state or
It's
two.
fine.
I'm gonna drop a truth bomb right now. Mm-hmm. I didn't vote this year.
Oh, hold on. Before we.
Okay.
You know, I have nothing. Anyways, we wouldn't care what's going on in those states if it wasn't for the electoral system.
Right.
It's a very small population.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of points. And that that's why the Republican Party can kind of focus its energy on those places.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why that's what motivates them. So without the electoral college,
do you know how many
they would be forced to change tactics and forced to change who they market themselves to?
Because if you're Republican in California, your vote doesn't count.
Right.
Yeah, not at all.
It's like that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you notice whenever there's an election, they fucking just give California to they're like, they haven't even finished counting New York yet. They're like, all right, we're just going to give California to the
Although
Democrats.
the numbers aren't as like, it's still a lot. I think half of California votes Republican. No,
Half?
not half. Sorry, not half.
45%.
It's
Like
twice as
less.
many people vote Democrat than Republican
Right.
in California. To me, that's still a big number of
that's
Republicans.
That's like 60-40, right? Something like no.
No, 30.
They're all like in like Placerville.
30.
And fucking,
Well,
you
the
know?
north of California is all red. It's
Yeah.
all red, and then I think the parts close to Nevada are
Yeah,
red.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas,
I mean, you have to imagine California is the most expensive state to live in the country. There's a reason there's fucking so much homelessness epidemic
Yeah.
because jobs paying $15 an hour, rent's $2,200. So there's got to be people here who can afford that. If you can afford to live in California, chances are you're not voting for a Democrat.
Now, if you were a Republican candidate and you got a lot of those homeless people to vote for you in California, there's something there.
Oh, but to further
There's
that
a lot
point
of them.
about wealthy folks voting, I think that one of the main things about Northern California in particular, I think a lot of people will vote Democrat not because of the economic policy, because obviously the Dems aren't following that, but because of the social stuff and the environmental stuff. You know, a lot of the people that are making a lot of money are driving their Priuses and feeling pretty good about themselves.
But that's we've talked about this. That's the problem I have with California, is that homelessness is so bad. There's encampments of homeless people just
Everywhere.
lining the freeway.
Fucking everywhere.
You know, jobs are paying $15 an hour. Your rent is $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
Landlords aren't even going to consider your application unless you make 3 times rent. There's a crime epidemic. You know, San Francisco has the highest automotive break-ins in the state because they decriminalized automotive break-ins to get their felony numbers down. There's all these problems, and the leadership is just like, we hear you. We're gonna ban straws, and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, it like I use this analogy in the group chat we have. The leadership in California, it reminds me of a homeowner whose foundation is cracked, the lead paint is chipping, the pipes are leaking, the roof has a hole in it, and they're just like, we're going to replace all of our toilets with new eco-friendly ones made from hemp, and it retains human waste so you can make your own compost.
But make sure you're wearing a mask.
And you're just like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
And
that literally does nothing. You're not fixing any of the problems
And
here.
that goes right back to, remember I mentioned the Democrats were not following their economic ideology? That's because, and quiet as is kept, and no one has really said this, but all of these major Silicon Valley companies, Hollywood, all of the big earners, they are essentially, it feels like the government, our state government, is doing whatever they can to keep those employees and those companies around and happy, but never mind the working class. So it's almost the same as having a Republican in office economically, but like I said, social, environmental.
Yeah, it's like
different.
Gavin Newsom saying he's going to force everyone to buy an electric car. It's like, really? I don't think anybody's asking for that, because if electric cars were cheaper, and if you address the issues people have with electric cars, like my car's on E, I can roll to a gas station, fill up in 5 minutes. It's going to take way longer than that to charge my electric car. And what about, truck drivers and other industries that use, internal combustion? Ain't no fucking Tesla 18-wheeler. Like,
Right.
if you address the issues people have with electric cars, and if they were cheaper than internal combustion cars, you wouldn't have to force anybody, because they'd be buying them up in droves.
That's true.
Hey, how do you solve the Flint, Michigan water issue? Hey, let's give everybody a water heater. Like, what?
What the no?
Yeah, it's just.
Did they do that?
No, I'm
like I
okay.
said,
An
it
analogy.
It
Yeah.
comes across more like Elon Musk has been threatening to leave California because of your horrible policies, your micromanaging, your mismanagement, taxes and fees. Like, just the way the state is run, it's so hard to run a business here. I was talking to you about this the other day. There's so many people leaving California that, like, U-Hauls and all these moving companies can't keep up with the demand of people trying to get the hell out of here. And so there's, like, moving company scams that are starting up. Like, people are starting up fake moving companies.
yeah.
And like loading up people's stuff and then just disappearing. People get to their new house, the moving truck never shows up, right? Shit like that's going on. And then you had asked me, you were like, well, why don't they just start a legitimate moving company if there's such a demand? And it's like, California is so misrun. You have to have 10 G's in the bank as your startup cars just to start up a business, because you need to take out loans. There's so many permits you got to apply for. There's taxes you got to pay. There's fees you got to pay. It's so overly regulated. It is so hard to start a business in California. It's easier to just fucking scam people out of their shit than start a legitimate business. And that's the issue a lot of these business owners are having. And that's why people are leaving the state in droves. And so when you hear Gavin Newsom say, oh, we don't want to be dependent on carbon. We don't want to be dependent on, gasoline. We want to, cut our ties to oil and become self-sufficient. It's like, really, because PG&E already can't keep people's power on. Are you sure this isn't just to keep Elon Musk in the state because he's threatening to take Tesla somewhere else?
Now-
Because that sounds like what this is about.
Now, if I were running on the Democratic ticket for
I just want to say this real quick. Fuck Elon Musk. Anyway, sorry. Sorry.
he's the wish Iron Man.
Yeah.
Unless he wants to do the show, in which case we'll be glad to have him.
That's the truth. Come on, Elon. No.
Once again, I say fuck Elon.
Now, if I were running for state governor on the Democratic ticket or some other party, the Voice Party. But no, this is what I would do. I would cut the costs for new independent mom and pop businesses and startups. Like as far as the fees and the licensures and all that sort of stuff, because we want small business to survive. But what I would do is say that, like, let's say you own a company that's raking in over a couple of million, let's say $3 million a year. You're probably going to get taxed a bit more. You know what I mean? Like all those constraints and what have you that are keeping like the small guys up now, it's definitely going to be given to like your Microsofts and your Facebooks and some of the other larger companies, because why not? They can afford it. I mean, but I would definitely cut some stuff for the smaller guy. And I would still do environmental regulation, but I would go about it in a slightly different way.
I mean, I think, I'm not saying fuck the environment.
But fuck the environment.
I'm saying as long as people are living under bridges because they can't afford rent, fuck the environment. Get your priorities straight.
Yeah.
But there's no
Burn that
reason,
shit
but
down,
I'm talking about
build
what I would do,
houses.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason that
Yeah,
you
for
can't
sure.
fix the economic situation
Yeah,
and
'cause
the
I know-
environmental situation.
I know
in
we
the same
talked last
office.
year where, the cost of living and rent is so high. Like the photo lab I was running, our rent got raised to like $40,000 a month.
Yeah.
And we're a mom and pop shop. It's like, well,
Wow.
what the fuck?
Jesus.
And you would look up and down our street and there's just one closed business after another because nobody
Hilltop
can afford
Mall.
the business here. Yeah, fucking Hilltop Mall. The whole
Yeah,
mall is
yeah,
abandoned
yeah.
because nobody can afford the rents out here.
Right.
And that's another thing I brought up, I think, in that conversation. Another thing I would do is I would bring in rent control. But yeah, bring in rent control. Say, all right, you can only charge this much for commercial business office and only this much for a domicile in said area, regardless of what you think the market might be. Because look at the entire population of the state, how many people are old enough and eligible to work. Think about how much they actually make on the average and make it so that the most people can live somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I do definitely subscribe to the idea that your career definitely influences that. Like the career you choose definitely has a determining factor on your quality of life. But at the same time, we can't have a country full of CEOs. You got to have bus drivers and milk
Not yet.
carriers
I'm
and
just kidding.
cashiers and grocery clerks.
Yeah.
And they all need to be able
Yeah.
to afford rent too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
And there's a huge decline in, for example, trade jobs. Like people don't want trade jobs anymore in California. They want to run a podcast
or build
That's
software.
also part of the
Yeah.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So aside from, overall for 2020, I think everyone has looked at the problems around in California.
We've
look at
had
this
time
shit.
to think about
Look at how
it.
many more tents in Berkeley, dude. Have you guys been to Berkeley recently? I know you have.
I'm in Berkeley a lot.
You
And
seen how more tents?
there's a lot more and have you seen that now they're setting up porta potties and
Yeah.
hand washing stations at all
Yeah.
the encampments?
You're gonna be here a while, bud.
Yeah, and
Buckle up.
I see that, and I'm like, well, oh, isn't that cute? Too bad it doesn't solve the fucking problem.
No.
I mean, it will prevent the spread of germs and disease, but we definitely don't want that getting into the rest
Yeah, I mean,
of the
I saw a thing last year where San Francisco was going to do a thing where they were going to set up parking lots for people who are sleeping out of their cars to park safely, and I'm like, what the fuck? How does that fix anything?
I
Build
mean,
more
it
parking
puts a
lots.
Band-Aid on it. I mean,
You don't need band-aids. We need fucking.
Well, sometimes you need a Band-Aid while you're trying to figure out the long-term solution.
I don't know. I think either way we're fucked, and I'm open to the apocalypse at this point. You know what? If it's gonna end, fuck it. Just do it when my eyes are closed, baby, because I'm ready to go. That's dark, but
Yeah, I mean, I think
no. But what I'm saying is this year, for example, it's taken a toll on everyone's mental.
yeah, because I think
the fucking sky was orange.
oh my god, yeah, the fucking fires.
Yeah.
Fucking yeah, I guess this.
Your psyche's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Because the thing I was going to bring up is this is a generation that's grown up with instant gratification. We're used to Netflix and
Right.
YouTube and Amazon Prime and
Insta-
your
our
smartphone,
phones,
Twitter.
Yeah.
We're used to
Grubhub.
we're used to have everything right away at our fingertips. So when people tell you, just give it a year, just don't go outside for a year, we'll get a vaccine eventually. People are like, oh yeah.
I need to go
And
drink beers outside.
honestly, a year was optimistic.
Yeah.
Usually, it takes 3 years to develop a vaccine. They were just trying to
Yeah,
it's
but this whole generation was like, I'd rather die.
and they have.
I mean, Florida was like, I'd rather die in Mississippi, but it was spotty in the rest of the country.
Are you guys familiar with tiny houses?
I used to live in one.
Yeah, I know, isn't that funny? Like,
Those ones that
if you were-
people are building in their backyards.
Yeah. Well, so I think the laws for that are like really, really weird, where you can't just like build one and live in it. You know, you have to go through a lot.
Yeah, it has to basically be up to the same code as like a regular house.
But smaller.
But some places you can't even have it. Some places, yeah, you can have it in your backyard.
Yeah, that was the thing. Me and my girlfriend, we've been looking for a place, and we saw one place because we don't fucking make a lot. We make like $38,000, $40,000 a year.
And that's what you cut in from the podcast, right?
Yeah, that's what my podcast cut, right? And so realistically, we can afford like $1,400-$1,500 a month if we split it 50-50. And we looked at one place. Most places we're looking at are like $2,200-$2,500 because she's got a kid, so we'd like to find a 2-bedroom so the kid has like a room.
Is that in the hood? Because the hood is expensive as
the
fuck.
hood is
now.
fucking expensive. But we saw one place in fucking Antioch for $1,450, and it was like a carriage house in somebody's backyard where it was one room, like half the size of this garage, with a kitchen and a bathroom connected to it. Motherfucker wanted $1,450 a month, and we're like, well, you put a bed in here, and that's it, really.
That's crazy because Antioch was my safety.
One of those.
my safe zone that like rent got too expensive.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, the reason I brought it up is because I feel like that would at least reduce the amount of people on the street if you just build tiny houses and make them affordable.
I think this pandemic is going to reduce the people on the street.
No, well, it's going to reduce the people that were already on the street, but it's going to increase the people that were at home, put them on the street.
I just mean like the people dying out.
Yeah.
They're not the people population. Yeah. Property values are going to come down. Traffic's going to ease up. I think there's an upside that we're not looking at here.
He sounds too optimistic about that.
I don't know about that.
We need listeners, fucker. We don't want these people dying.
No. Say what you believe, but I don't think that's...
But they don't have it. They don't have Android phones anyway. How are they going to listen to us, JD?
We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts. We're everywhere.
I should have said they don't have smart devices,
I mean, there's computers. You can watch us on YouTube.
Like they can go into the library and check in and rent out some computer time.
When the pandemic started and all them non-essential people were stuck at home, and my boss was like, "Fuck you, you're a notary. Go to work. That's essential."
Isn't it funny that poor people were running the country for very little pay, and they were proud of it because we had the word essential, and then not long after that, people started getting bitter because non-essential workers were staying at home and often
stacking cash.
Yeah, bro. And instead of being mad at the system, we were mad at the people collecting unemployment. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you had to work during the pandemic, you probably should have got hazard pay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
absolutely.
I made a meme and I never posted it where it was Captain Kirk like talking to a line of red shirts, and it was just like, "Thank you, essential workers." Because that's essentially what it fucking was. It's like, look, we gotta have fucking
change the logo to Target.
Yeah, it's like, look, I need food, dude. I need socks. I can't be. There's got to be somebody running Walmart, And it's one of those things where the jobs we couldn't live without are the ones we can't be bothered to pay a living wage to.
Yeah,
it sucks.
That's what we're gonna name this episode.
And
2020, the essential year.
There you go. And one more thing about I saw the same meme set up, only it said Captain Kirk was telling the red shirts, all right, so when everything opens up back up again, I need you, and you to go shopping for me, and you, and you to go pick this stuff up.
But I'll say this, though. When those non-essential people were at work and I had to commute from Brentwood to Berkeley, I got there in like 25 minutes.
Hell yeah.
I'm just like, holy shit, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think a lot of jobs,
dope.
because of this, are going to continue to be working from home.
Yeah. No more the toll operator people. Like, that's done. And I ain't paying shit. You keep sending those letters, Coach. I ain't paying shit.
What the hell was I going to say?
That's what's causing the decline in the States, though. But we've been at it, 2 hours now?
We've been an hour and a half. We've been an hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So before we wrap this up, does anybody have anything they want to add on this?
I didn't cry. All right.
Yeah, last year, we're fucking 2 months into the show, and you're crying like, this is the best thing I've ever done with my life.
I was like crying, and then like you're all looking at me and like, oh fuck, I feel horrible.
It's like 9 o'clock at night. My girl's like passed out on your fucking bed because it's the middle of the night and we're all tired and got work the next day.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
2021 better come correct.
I don't know,
I swear
man.
to God, if
I don't
2021 don't come correct.
I think it's just gonna get worse.
Well, there's definitely a third wave coming. We know
third
that.
wave.
We know that. And
third
then
wave. Everybody's tired of
well,
getting.
shit, I'm gonna fucking learn to surf then, because I'm over
Fuck
this
it.
nonsense.
Fuck it.
and then
Exactly.
the economy's not gonna just stand up right away.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for those of you who are investing, this is a good time.
For the
Just stacking
vaccines.
Yeah, oh yeah. Find a vaccine company and throw some money in that sucker. Also, find some like really cheap airline stocks as well, because they're low and they're going to explode once like the masks are off, figuratively speaking.
The Voice Party Airlines is coming out.
Did you fucking see like American Airlines was like, well, we can't fly you nowhere, but if you want, you can come sit on the plane and eat some food. And people were like, who the fuck would do that?
Who likes airplane food?
I saw a thing, the Cerrito Theater is still closed, but they had a thing where you can come and buy popcorn to go. And I'm like,
What?
I actually like popcorn enough to take them up on that.
yeah, but you can go to Safeway and get a bag for like 97
Yeah,
cents.
but it's different when it's like popped by the theater people. Microwave popcorn is
Yeah.
what you do when you can't get.
Microwave
Get some
popcorn
Jiffy
sucks
Pop.
though.
Huh?
Get some Jiffy Pop. Upgrade your life with some Jiffy
Yeah,
Pop.
exactly. One thing, I went to the theater
And
for the first
support
time.
your local business too. I'll throw that out there.
No, okay, fair enough.
I went to the theater for the first time. You got to sit like 4 or 5 seats away from everybody, and I was coughing like a motherfucker, dude. They were looking at me hella weird because I was eating popcorn while wearing a mask.
They're getting ready to do this to you.
If I'm sitting,
like, God, damn it.
if I'm sitting in a movie theater and there's only like 6 motherfuckers in that sumbitch, I'm gonna give a goddamn
I'm jacking
speech.
off.
I'm gonna be
I don't
like,
give
better
a
not see
fuck.
one of you motherfuckers on your phone. Y'all better shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I will flash on one of y'all. I don't give a fuck. There's only 6 of us. Everybody behave.
Everybody behave.
So, but yeah, I mean, if anything, like, I don't have much sympathy for the airline, because even if they went out of business, they'd still come back. But for like the Cerrito, I'm like, go support that if you're local and that's in your city. You want, and I've heard plenty of stories about places that would have gotten permanently shut down if it weren't for the community coming together and say, look, even if it means we're going to order from you every night of the week, local burger stand, we're going to do it because when this is all over, we want you to still be here.
Yep.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, shit, we're back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Return.
So we're back in the studio. Thank you for everybody who supported us. Let me put it to my fucking camera.
Yeah.
Thank you for supporting us during the pandemic when we all had to phone it in to make this show happen.
All 5 of you, we really appreciate you.
My mom, the
My
FBI
mom.
agent.
But
The
no, you
CIA
guys listen to
agent.
the
Yeah.
Voice Party. This has been the fucking, what the hell was that? The 2020 retrospective. So we are out.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Bam. Dip to black. Oh, shit.